Speculation.
Trade talks.
Juicy rumors.
All right. Yes. Reckless Speculation Thursday. Happy Reckless Speculation Thursday to all who celebrate the lifestyle. And if you do celebrate, you weren't surprised by the Twins' blockbuster trade on opening day. You're always expecting moves by our Minnesota sports teams. Let's dive into, for the first time, really in like a year, I feel like 9 months, Judd's Twins notebook. You were down on the field, behind the scenes, at the press conferences.
Yep.
You were there for the Twins workout day. Now, it is opening day today on this Thursday, but the Twins aren't going to play until tomorrow because of crappy weather. So let's just throw it to Judd here. What are the most interesting things that you have observed being around this team to the start of the season? This team that has 9 faces now on the 28-man roster that weren't here a month ago.
So the most interesting thing I observed at the workout that they did yesterday. So Buxton and Baldelli talked before the workout. It was a rainy day. It was a miserable day, but they still were on the field,
Doing
going
push-ups,
through a
punishing
practice.
each other for missing throws.
Yep. And so the most interesting thing that I observed during the course of the workout, though, was this: the Carlos Correa dynamic, and it's just starting. So like this is not a completed thing yet. But I'm going to tell you right now, just from first observation of him in a Twins uniform, he seems to bring an it factor that I think is going to be incredibly important. He seems to have because he's not just a great player, but I think he's got that, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I say it. He seems to have that aura around him that some players have, and not every really good player has it, for sure, but he does. I would call it in its own way. So this is not an apples to apples comparison, but it feels a little bit like the Nelson Cruz vibe, that players are attracted to it. Players are drawn to it. Now,
It's a cool, calm collectedness. It's a
And it's not even necessarily like totally calm, but it's a definite I've got control. But most importantly, and here's the difference. Most importantly, in my opinion, it is magnetic, and guys want to be around it, and guys are attracted to it. I think that we have, and this is largely because of the fact that we had no access to the clubhouse for 2 years, which of course coincides with the time that Josh Donaldson was the Twins' third baseman. I initially thought when they signed Josh that it was going to be another veteran presence, a guy who was wired tightly, but that would work out well. I thought that Cruz and Donaldson would offset. Everything you started to hear was, no, it didn't work. That Josh was a different cat, that he was wired very tight, but
he's
not in a
abrasive dude. Yeah.
Yeah, he's abrasive. Now, here's the problem, and I'm going to defend him a little bit here, because I think there was a time in baseball where that works, and with a certain team, it probably works. Like if you had plopped Donaldson into the '87 Twins, I think it works, because that's sort of an abrasive team. Like they're a beer chugging, pizza eating team.
If you plug him into like the Cowboy Up Red Sox or something,
exactly.
right?
So
Swashbuckling.
Because I don't want this
I
to
just
be
like to use the word swashbuckle.
and they were swashbuckling, but I don't think it's fair to just rip him and say, well, he just didn't like care, because I think he cared a lot. That being said, I sensed from Correa's mannerisms and how much talking he does, and how much guys gravitate towards that, especially the young players, which is obviously important, that the dynamic in the clubhouse is going to be shifted dramatically because of him. And that's a positive. I also, so in the press conference with Buxton before they went out for the workout, I asked Buxton about the clubhouse, and he basically said, it's different. It's night and day different. So I think that the Twins, among their problems, and I'm going to be careful here because I don't want this to be, it was all Donaldson's fault, or that the Twins were good but got somehow sabotaged by certain players. But I do think that clubhouse dynamics in all of pro sports, all the sports, are incredibly important.
Yeah.
Like they can't just
it's your work environment.
Yeah, and if you have good young players who feel the vibe, I think it helps empower them. And if they don't, I think it hurts them. And that's not a complete excuse for failure, but it is part of the puzzle that goes with what could be a successful team or one that's not. And I'm not just blaming Donaldson. I think the whole Andrelton Simmons thing went sideways too. Like, I
Oh,
think the whole thing with him massively. So, like, the left side of your infield didn't necessarily galvanize the team. So, this is not just one guy. But what I saw, and yes, it's one workout. Okay. So, you can say, well, Judd, you're reading too much, small sample size. But from what I saw from Carlos Correa, what he brings not only as a player, but as a player who totally gets his importance, I think this Twins team is going to at least start the season with a clubhouse that is far more comparable to 2019 than the trash clubhouse that they had in, if I'm not mistaken, 2018.
yeah. So many things here. This is so interesting how much things have changed in the last 30 days for this club. So let's just start with where you sort of ended there, which is the Donaldson and Andrelton Simmons pickups the last couple of years. I have no desire to have like a vaccination discussion on this show, but I will say that like when you have a working environment in which you have very vocal Andrelton Simmons, anti-vax, I think that's where Donaldson landed as well. He didn't talk a lot about it, but like something was off with this team in the first couple months, especially. It didn't look like they loved playing with each other. They were sort of dead. You know, ultimately, baseball is a series of one-on-one individual matchups that add up to a team sport. It's not as much of a team sport as like football is, where you're trying to get 11 guys to work in coordination against 11 other guys. You know, it's pitcher, hitter, ground ball to a shortstop, throw to a first baseman. But when the vibe is off and your working environment is not favorable, and Byron Buxton essentially verified it, answering your question, said the clubhouse dynamic is night and day different, which means the dynamic was crappy beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your job as a manager and your job as a front office is in part to create the best working environment for people to perform close to their 100th percentile, right? Like that's a baseball manager's job. And if you've got guys that just don't like being around each other, or they're not that tight for whatever reason, or they disagree on politics or vaccination stuff, like it can get, I don't know, people are human. So I totally understand that. Couple things I loved. I love that Carlos Correa came out yesterday and said, this is not my team. Now, you could have taken that one of two ways. You could have said, well, it's not your team because you're here for 5 minutes making $35 million, and then you're going to opt out and go sign an 8-year contract somewhere else. Of course, you're just renting here.
Right.
But I took it more as he is trying to empower Byron Buxton even more to be the leader of this team. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, he went out of his way to say, this is Byron Buxton's team. He sets the vibe. He's the star player. And he has been the main focus of two teams that have made the playoffs, even if he's been injured for, you know, those stretches.
Right.
And I love that Rocco came out and said, when asked about the expectation, he said, our expectation is to win a World Series. I don't know that I've heard it put that bluntly and plainly by the front office or Rocco. Am I wrong? Like in the 3 or 4 years, have they flat out said that before?
Yes. He said it at the beginning of spring training 2020.
Okay.
He said flat out, and I think he told the players in a meeting at the beginning of spring training that was the intention.
And that's good because
that's fine. I don't.
And based on the moves that you've made here in the last 30 days, like you're not just signing Carlos Correa, or you shouldn't be anyways. You're not just signing him to like, oh, let's see if we can finish above 500.
Yep.
You know, and there's probably other moves to be made. So I love it. You know, obviously they haven't played a game yet, and there's a lot of questions about their pitching, and they need Kirilloff to step into his own and stay healthy this season. But I love everything I'm hearing. I love the moves that they've made. I mean, I think Falvey and Levine made some atrocious moves for 2 years. Almost everything they did, trade or signing, was a train wreck for like 2 years.
Right.
The moves they didn't make at the 2019 deadline. But they've done a great job over the last 30 days. And so I think you have to give them credit and just sit back and see what happens to start the season here.
And as far as the chemistry goes, too, it's a really interesting discussion because of this. I think Rogers was very popular. Like, I think he's a great guy. And, I mean, he was in the dugout as they started the workout on Wednesday, like going up to everybody. Hey, it's great to be back. Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. So, like, I mean, we're talking about a good guy. But that's what makes these almost in some ways chemistry experiments to me of clubhouses and players versus people such an interesting dynamic. Phil, is you do have to weigh this on, okay, this guy's a good guy, he's a good player, good pitcher, but he is in the last year of his contract. He's 31. We are almost certainly not going to bring him back, and right now we could potentially use him as a major chip to make a trade that's going to get us 2 pitchers under team control that we like. So like this is where the dynamic gets to be so intriguing, because from a player standpoint, I love this. Like I absolutely think that this is the correct move. And it also goes to show us that if push comes to shove, these guys, and this is probably true of a lot of executives in baseball, would prefer to trade a guy like Rodgers from a prospect who we say will just trade him, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you go to them and say, you could trade right now prospect number 12 or a pending free agent who you like, but you almost certainly know is going to be done after 2022, we might say, well, trade the 12th prospect. They're going to say, oh, no, we prefer to trade the pending free agent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just
another thing, too, not to sleep on in terms of leadership. So Carlos Correa, yes, but look at the bullpen right now. Like Joe Smith has pitched. I think Joe Smith won. I think he was with the Astros when they won the World Series in 2017, because I think he got traded to the Astros and they stuck with him for a few years. So you got Joe Smith, who has been a rock solid reliever throughout his career. Sonny Gray has played on some winning teams in Oakland, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Chris Archer has played on winning Rays teams. You know, he didn't win a World Series with the Rays, but like I just kind of love the mix of some of the veterans that they're bringing in here to go along with some of the young talent and some of the. Yeah, listen to me just guzzling Twins Kool-Aid right now. I swore I wasn't going to do this. I swore.
Feels like screw this team. I'm out.
Well, look what they've done in the last 30 days. Like, to their credit, I mean, they have done work the last 30 days.
I feel like you, especially in baseball, at times skip the wait and see. Like you're either all out or you're all in. I'm very much like I like.
Well, I'm not saying they're like the World Series favorite, right? I mean, the Dodgers have one of the greatest lineups in history on paper.
You were so mad at this team.
Yeah,
I bought season tickets. I bought season tickets because of what they did.
They signed Carlos Correa.
They signed Carlos Correa.
I know. No, I'm not. I'm just saying
Let's go!
You sway. You know what Phil needs? Twins meds. Phil needs Twins meds to bring him to like a happy, just a medium.
A doctor comes in, just jabs me in the neck with some
you need
Twins tranquilizers.
You need these Twins meds, Phil Mackey.
Oh man. So I just think this front office, they've looked at the last couple of years. They've been here for 5 years now, and they said, "What are we doing? What are we doing here?" Like if you could really get a couple glasses of wine in Falvey and Levine and say, let's look back at these 5 years, okay? Like, yeah, there's been some winning seasons and whatnot, but you haven't won a playoff game. You didn't really do anything to help the best power-hitting offense in baseball history in 2019, and you wind up starting.
Yeah.
You wind up with guys like Randy Dobnak and Cody Stashak pitching in these big games, right? Like, what are you guys doing?
Yep.
You still have a good nucleus of young players here. Be aggressive. And they've been creative and aggressive, and they've probably heard some of the criticism, which I think has been warranted the last couple of years. And This is just like, how often have you ever seen in your life the Minnesota Twins say, all right, we're going to go dump this much money on a free agent. We're going to make like 3 blockbuster trades, and we're just going to – and their payroll is going to wind up being, I think, the highest in team history. I think it's trending toward like $140 million. So,
yep. Well, and
it's a fun vibe.
The Correa move is great because they sort of got used, but who cares? Like literally, who cares?
Who cares?
Okay,
yeah, that's fine.
I'll take him for a year. Oh, it's only 1 year. I'll take him. Mm-hmm. There's 2 things here that I think when it gets when we're talking about Levine to a certain point, but probably much more Falvey, that I think are really intriguing. One is the roller coaster clubhouse. 2018, you could not have had a worse collection of people. Lance Lynn signed. signed late, unhappy. He's good. I'm not saying he's not, but I mean, that was a guy who was disgruntled. Lomo, just a complete dead ass. That clubhouse was terrible. 19, you get Cruz, right? And it's like, oh my God, that clubhouse was fantastic. 21 or 2021, clearly not as good. Now, potentially, looks good. That's one. The second one, Phil, is this. Do you remember when we went and sat down with Falvey in the winter? Was that 4 or 5 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like
great
conversation.
conversation.
It was going into 18. We sat there for like an hour and just did an hour on Mackey and Judd. Mm-hmm.
Great conversation. And you broached this before, but I think now it's even more important. He talked about at one point in time the fact that Theo Epstein, when I think was it the Cubs job, that Epstein basically said, I've realized I have problems developing pitching, so I go get it. Mm-hmm. I can draft and I'm good at what I do, but like when it comes to, and it's a crapshoot too, drafting pitchers, it doesn't work great. And at that point in time, Falvey was known as the boy genius of pitching. Well, I feel like Falvey either had to come to Jesus or self-realization that relying on drafting pitching is very difficult. Mm-hmm. And so now it feels like he's gone far more down that Epstein path, which is absolutely fine. But the Epstein path of, you know what? It's easier to identify pitching that is high minors or here and go and get that as opposed to drafting arms. And it feels like something changed in his philosophy to fully come to the realization that the only way to probably get this right from a starting pitching standpoint is to go in on guys who are established in some way as opposed to trying to just cultivate draft picks.
Well, also, I think the Twins and Falvey and Levine fell into this category largely for the first few years, too. Like, it's not that they didn't make trades or moves like they did, but the Twins have been such a conservative franchise when it comes to trading, and we just gotta be careful. Well, we didn't get a phone call back from that team, and so this. Yeah. You know who won the World Series last year, right? The Atlanta Braves. Mm-hmm. Their general manager is one of the most aggressive free agent and trade general managers in all of baseball, Alex Anthopoulos. And I believe he spent almost a decade with the Blue Jays, maybe even more than that.
He was the GM at one point.
And they didn't win a World Series in Toronto, but it was like the Blue Jays were freaking aggressive. Middle market team. Braves, middle market team. The Braves and the Blue Jays and the Twins, there's not a whole lot of difference between like the revenue that they're operating with and the payrolls. I mean, the Blue Jays stretched their payroll quite a bit for a few years, but they would make big trades. They would make there was one off season where the Blue Jays spent the most money. I think they won the free agency winter meetings period, right? A mid-market team in Toronto, and it didn't work that well. But be aggressive, and if it doesn't work, it's okay. There's always another draft. There's always other free agents you can sign. Especially if it's shorter term contracts. So I love that they've kind of snapped out of this conservative, well, I don't know, we got to be careful, we can't do this. And I put on Twitter last night, just as a reminder, because I do think there's still a Frankie Montas discussion. He's the ace starter for the Oakland A's who finally was able to break out in a big way last season. And the Twins are one of 4 teams, according to the most recent reports, that are still in conversations with Oakland. They are going to trade Frankie Montas. The Red Sox are in on him, and he would be the Twins' best starting pitcher. They've got a couple guys at the top that you like right now, but he would be the number 1 starter above Joe Ryan and above Sonny Gray. But it's probably going to cost you, especially now that there's a bidding war and there's 2 years of team control, it's probably going to cost you a Royce Lewis or, it's going to cost you one of your best prospects. And I say, who cares? Like, I put a list out. I just found last night, I went back through Baseball America and grabbed a top 10 Twins prospect list from like 05, another one from 07 or 08, and then one from like the early 2010s. And I just tried to cover the last 20 years of Twins prospects. So there was like 40 or 50 prospects listed on these top 10 or 15 lists. And how many of them would you actually, in retrospect, consider untouchable? That like, if you would have traded this guy, it would have been a huge mistake. Mauer and Morneau were on one of the lists. Buxton, but I mean, he's always hurt. Like, would you have really regretted trading Buxton 7 years ago or something? Probably He's played one season
On
over
and off.
100-some games, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
Oh, he's really good now.
it's like very
Sure.
rarely do you look and say,
Right.
man. And even if the guys pan out, if it helps you win big in a certain season, I mean, the Cubs gave up some legit young players that panned out when they traded for Aroldis Chapman. But guess what? Aroldis Chapman was the final piece to a World Series puzzle that hadn't been completed for over 100 years. So just be aggressive. And they are. And it's going to get some butts back in some seats. It got Declan to buy season tickets.
Twins are thrilled about that. By the way.
I'm so
Twins
pleased.
are. My sources say that the Twins are thrilled. Declan Goff on board.
You, man.
Me, not so much.
Hey, 15% off
free.
food and beverages now. I'm a season ticket holder. 15% off beers. That
Good
adds
beer,
up.
too.
After 3 or 4 beers, that adds up.
That's good beers. If
Yeah.
that's
That's
if
a free beer after,
really
like, the
furious,
fourth or
that's
fifth
a really
beer.
good deal.
Yeah. Let's go on the record real quick. What do we, before we get to old tweets exposed here? You know,
God.
general win range. Give me like a win range within 3 wins. And
boy,
and do you
let's
think
see.
they make the playoffs? Do you think they win their first playoff game in 18 years?
84 wins. 84 wins. Last wild card team in, and they win a damn playoff game.
I think they're going to get off to a decent start and add. I think they're going to be buyers. So I'm going to say it's around 90 wins,
Okay.
and I think they win a playoff game. I think they finally win a playoff game.
Oh my God. Judd.
Oh God, I went 97 wins last year.
So?
I'm going 82 wins. I'm going 82 wins. They fight for that last wild card spot, and they miss it because Buxton gets hurt.
There he is.
Wow, there it is, right there.
There he
Judd
is.
Zolgan,
Buxton gets
everybody.
hurt.
There
Hey,
he
look,
is.
Zolgan.
Look, I asked Buxton yesterday. I flat out said, I said, let's pick a number of games. I said, let's say 150. What can a healthy Byron Buxton do? I give him credit. He basically said, well, a lot, but I can't really talk about it because I have not held up my end of the bargain health-wise yet. So good
Dude,
for
if
him.
If he plays a
But
$150, he wins
gonna-
the MVP.
And I'm going to tell you right now, seriously, that to me is the season. Like if he plays 150, this team could be really good.
Yeah.
If
So-
he plays 70, it's a huge question mark to me.
I can't remember where I saw this yesterday, but someone put out a wins above replacement per 150 games graphic yesterday. It was like Fangraphs or something over the last however many years. Tied for first in all of baseball. Wins above replacement per 150, Mike Trout and Byron Buxton. Now Mike Trout missed almost all of last year.
Right.
But he's been extraordinarily durable for the most part. So if he plays 150 games, Byron Buxton, he will win the American League MVP.
When Byron Buxton is healthy, he is among the biggest overall difference makers that I've ever seen in watching baseball. Like
And you
the
got
amount
him
of-
got him at 82 wins and him
And- well,
breaking
'cause
a
I
leg
don't- 'cause
for
he's not
for
gonna
3
spend-
months.
So, do you really think you're suited to be the 4th guy in our group, Buzz Killington?
I was
First
looking
of all,
for
I'm
that.
the-
Can you send
first
that
of
to
all,
me?
Yeah,
I'm
send
the
that.
first of all, I'm a third guy.
I feel like we're going to need it.
Second of all, why would I bank? In fact, I think it's bad karma to assume that he's going to be healthy. I
Well, I'm
think
not
it's
assuming.
bad
but
karma to assume that if he's not, it's a totally different year.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Judd's got him on 60 wins. Declan's got him
I'm
at
97.
84.
I'm not. I ain't doing it again. I said they lost a game early in the season opening series to the Brewers, and I remember saying on this show, they're a good team. They'll bounce. It's no problem at all. They're going to be a really good team. I'm not doing that again.
All right. That's fine. Before we get to old tweets exposed here, I know Declan's been dying to talk about golf as we watch Tiger Woods make his way through the front nine. So, I don't know, where are you going to be doing some golfing this summer?
At the Meadows at Mystic Lake, just down 169 from the Twin Cities. And here's what you can also do at the Meadows at Mystic Lakes. It's one of the nicest courses. It can be hard to get a tee time, right? Well, you should go and save some money with the Frequent Player Card, which enjoys discounted rates and merchandise and gives you a 3-week advanced tee time booking with the purchase of a cart. And as a frequent player, your golf rate will drop to $75 for an 18-hole round with a cart. And while you're at it, get your grip regrip for the upcoming season. 20% off in-stock grips at that clubhouse. One of the coolest clubhouses around, and that grill, the Meadows Bar and Grill, a perfect spot to watch the Masters right now. Check The Masters on CBS and ESPN Plus. We have to start adding that one as well. But the Meadows at Mystic Lake, it's one of the nicest courses around. They're a new sponsor of Score North. We thank them. Thank you for coming on board.
Support Dennis Kirk. If you like to ride, we're going to get into, baseball season means riding season is close. So if you're a motorcycle guy or gal, they got what you need: parts, accessories, apparel. Ride more and wait less is what they say at Dennis Kirk. We're talking about some of the best service, the most parts you're going to find in stock, same-day shipping on orders placed before 8 p.m., and free shipping on orders over $89. So get out on that open road. They ship today. Ride more, wait less at DennisKirk.com. All right, every week Declan finds old incriminating tweets and holds our feet to the fire. It's old tweets exposed here on Mackey and Judd.
All right, old tweets exposed. So this is more for Mackey's tweet here. It's not necessarily the exposing. It could even make a case that he was foreshadowing the future. But I want to go back to 2017 at the trade deadline when the Twins were reportedly getting Jaime Garcia, and the deal was on hold for a little bit. And maybe the Garcia deal isn't done because Sonny Gray, who was with the Yankees at the time,
he didn't do
and
well
then 5 years later,
He
the Twins
kind of crashed and burned with the Yankees. Yeah.
Well, and
Lots of guys do.
I think I saw too. Sonny Gray. A lot of that had to do with Gary Sanchez behind the plate, and the two of them had like a 6.5, 7 ERA together. So Sonny Gray,
maybe keep those guys away from each other.
maybe
here
do not have those two on the mound and on the recipient end of behind the plate, please. But Phil, kind of personifying, hey, maybe this Jaime Garcia deal isn't done because Sonny Gray is in the works 5 years later.
Well, I was the hockey whisperer first, but on the side, I am also the baseball whisperer. So I saw it all along.
The statue didn't run out on that prediction?
No.
It was open.
I didn't tell you when they were going to acquire
true,
Sonny
you
Gray. I
didn't.
just said that they were.
It's like write
Sonny
that
Gray.
down. We are just finding loopholes right and left.
So okay, yeah,
That's good.
sounds like a pretty good tweet
Well,
to
Phil,
expose
yeah,
there.
Phil's
It's a good tweet.
Basically,
It's a good tweet. I just wanted to share it.
nice-
Sometimes
nice
old
work,
tweets
Declan.
exposed.
Old tweets exposed.
Sometimes old tweets exposed is also proving us we're still right in the long run too, while exposing our funny takes
Since
as
when
well.
do we shine a light on the positive on this program?
We try to. Judd Zulgad, though, at the end of the 2015 season, the top 5 candidates for Twins MVP. I just love the list on here. I listed it on today's show. Number 1, Miguel Sano.
Yep.
Number 2, Eddie Rosario. Number 3, Eduardo Escobar. Number 4, Trevor Plouffe. And number 5, Brian Dozier. Your top 5 candidates for an MVP season, or MVP of the 2015 season for the Minnesota Twins.
What's funny about this is it's not like a wrong tweet or anything, because you're evaluating a season,
Yeah.
but it's just funny to look at these names now and just see. So Sano's still here. Rosario has just been a stud for the Braves.
Yep.
Escobar has continued to mash in the National League. Plouffe is one of the great baseball content creators on the internet
He's
now
awesome.
with John Boy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
awesome.
What
Yeah,
an
he's doing
awesome
well.
thing he's been. He's invested in that company, and who would have thought,
Trevor
I remember
Plouffe.
covering Trevor Plouffe back in the day. It was one of the most I can say this. He's not gonna. He was pretty insecure and standoffish early in his career, and to see him just come into his own as a player and as a media guy is cool. And then Dozier, let's see what Dozier does next. But
And that was the year that Sano came up around July 1st in Kansas City, right?
Correct.
2015.
I think so.
Correct.
God, he was good for that.
He was good. That
Clayton
was probably
Sutherland, he was.
But yeah,
So he was
Yeah, he
a
worked
different hitter.
counts.
Weird.
He worked counts. What happened? Don't
Okay.
get it.
All right, Dex. What do you got for
All right,
yourself
well,
here?
speaking of Brian Dozier, Declan Goff on June 25th, 2016. Yeah, the Twins are losing, but Dozier is regaining his form, and I'm
Yeah,
looking
that's
at
the
you,
whole problem with Dozier.
Dozier
Yeah.
haters.
Of course he did. Of
Oh,
course he
man.
did.
Shocking.
Hollow,
So the Twins are
hollow stats.
Is this one of those years where they were 20 games below 500
Yes.
and then he flips the switch?
Yes.
Could have used him
Yes.
in April and May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what type of guy does that? What
my-
type of guy is trailing late in games? Let's say a football game, and all of a sudden starts to put up great
boy.
stats.
Always have to make it about Kirk Cousins, don't you?
I was not. Did I bring up any names in particular?
Always.
That was a hypothetical.
Look, I love Declan's just calling out, looking for a fight on
Yeah.
Twitter. Dozier,
Looking-
come on, Dozier
Yeah,
haters.
come on.
Declan
come on.
likes to do that. Declan
do.
loves
good
to
at it.
fight with fans.
Internet
Yeah.
tough guy.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Internet,
Not actually.
looking
Tough.
you,
Look at me.
Dozier haters.
So there it is. Old tweets. I think Declan wins. He's
Yeah, I
calling out Dozier haters. There. Judd and I were just I was first
Phil
of all, I was
was
correct, and Judd was
prophetic.
probably right too because he was just listing the MVP. So, all right, wow, baseball's back. Look at us. We just talked more Twins today than we've talked in the last 9 months.
Phil is just
I don't know why you guys never wanted to talk Twins. I've been trying to drag this show to Twins, and you guys have just sat there.
You know, Phil.
The audience doesn't want it. I don't know.
You know, Phil. if you walk out the door of your abode there, and like head, I don't know how far the ballpark is, but you have
About 2 miles down the street.
But you have one of the better teams in the American League, I think, without question.
Yeah, they're
So-
just a smidge behind the Twins, probably.
I don't know about that.
Well, I guess we'll find out. This
We'll
week.
find out. But the Mariners, I think,
Mariners are-
what,
they're-
90 wins last year?
Yeah,
Great-
somewhere in there, 89,
90 wins,
90.
great
And
young talent.
They overachieved quite a bit, but they got a pipeline.
Nice team.
They got
Nice
that Kellenick kid, Jared Kellenick or whatever, that young player.
That's the kid they got for the Mets, right? Didn't they get him in a trade with the Mets?
Did they?
The American League West is loaded. The American League West is really going to be good, I hope.
Yep.
I think.
So listen, we are your home for the best Twins discussions until they decide to.
Until Phil gets
prove
mad at
otherwise.
baseball again. It's like,
I don't blame it
baseball.
all on me. You guys were right there too.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you know what?
I got a
Trades-
lot of
Trades are good.
I got a lot of crap from the girlfriend because, like, on our first date, I spent 20 minutes of it bitching about the Twins, and then when I bought these season tickets, she's like, "You're a fraud. Like, you spent 20
right.
minutes on our first date
Yeah.
complaining about the Twins losing playoff games. Now here you are telling us we're going to opening day and we have season tickets for the season.
She's
Like,
a-
you're kind of a fraud."
She's 100% right.
Yeah, she is. She usually is.
Both of you.
Yeah.
This should be your alarm every morning, right here.
82 wins.
How quickly would she break up with you if that on full blast was your alarm every morning?
I don't think she would care. She claims she's a bigger baseball fan than I am. She's been to like a dozen parks, and I think she actually might be for it. I'll let her know.
I'm not so sure on that one. Let's wait and see. I've heard claims before that don't prove to
Oh.
be true. Let's just say that.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Reckless Speculation Thursday. Mackie and Judd got our Twins predictions out there. Feedback Friday tomorrow, so we can talk more Twins tomorrow if you want. I don't know. We do what you guys want. We just respond to what the audience wants. If you guys want us to talk more Twins, we will talk more Twins. We'll see you guys tomorrow.